There's a lot of controversy about the best way of losing weight. Low carbohydrates, low fats. In science, there's really no controversy at all. You can lose weight both ways. The big thing is you have to create and monitor your energy balance. So from an evolutionary point of view we've talked about, we are programmed in order to seek out food with the highest energy return rate. That simply means we seek out food that maximizes energy relative to the amount of effort required to get that. And as a result, our food is important, not necessarily just the fats or the carbs. We seek out actively foods that have certain properties, and the properties in particular are fats and energy like that, sugars and starch energy, protein energy, salt. They're all the things that drive our desire for certain types of foods. So if you look at a child, for example, and they get to eat pizza for the first time, or a Big Mac, that meets all those internal drives. We've got taste buds in our mouth that we refer to taste sensations, but we've got much more receptors all the way through our digestive system and through our intestines and throughout our blood vessels that are constantly monitoring energy flux. And they're constantly sending messages back. So the first time that a child has a pizza, it meets all these requirements and a message goes to the brain going, hey, whatever this is, it's really good for us, meets all these different property levels that we're trying to monitor. And as a result, it will give you a bit of a dopamine spike so that it makes you feel good, and that's the reward that you actually found some food that it wants. And that's also the reward that will then start to make you seek out that food and look for the cues, the smell and the sight and everything else that marketing agents take into account to make you eat more of it and get more dopamine and more pleasure. So from an evolutionary perspective, we have certain characteristics that we chase. Our evolutionary legacy, which is a genetic thing, is that we seek out certain foods. So manufacturing food became prominent. Our ancestors used to chase out things like meat because it's got fats and proteins and things like that. On a kilogram basis, meat comes in at about 1,500 to 2,000 calories worth of energy per kilo. Now compare that with a kilo of vegetables, they're only somewhere between 200 and 300 calories, and compare that to fruit, which is somewhere between 500 and 700 calories. And what we would therefore search for is meats first, come by second is that we look for fruits, and then a distant third is always going to be vegetables in terms of net energy return rate. Now you look at processed foods that we're all subjected to. The foods are highly energy concentrated. That's because they're dehydrated. So without even looking at all the additives that the food manufacturers put in there to really make you addicted to a certain food source, just from an energy point of view, a kilogram of ice cream contains about 2,500 calories worth of energy. A kilogram of bread, because there's not much fluid in bread, contains over 3,000 calories worth per kilo. Sugar comes in at nearly 4,000 calories. Then look at chocolate, which we all like, that's coming in over 5,000 calories worth of energy per kilo. So it's easy to see, we're going to chase some foods more than others. So first of all, can we change our food preferences? Yes, we do. And the important thing is to do them in a way where we don't fight against our biology, because that's always going to lead you to failure long term. That's why people can't keep the weight off. So first thing to keep in mind, changing a habit, particularly if you're going to change something that you consider to be really desirable into something less desirable, you are not going to find your cravings will decrease day by day. The science is quite clear. Anything you're addicted to, your craving will actually increase day by day until your brain works out what's going on. You'll get to a tipping point and then your cravings will start to subside. With food, that seems to be normally between 2 to 4 days on average. So expect to struggle for the first couple of days. Now, some strategies that you might want to think about. Here are 3 quick studies to demonstrate some of the things. First study was that they got a group of overweight people and then split them up into 3, and they asked the first group to eat 3 apples a day on top of their normal food. The second group had 3 pears a day that they had to eat, and the last group had 3 biscuits. Now they tried to match the extra food, both in calorie or energy value, as well as fibre. So they added fibre to the biscuits, because biscuits really don't normally have fibre or anything else good in them. And then what they found after a couple of months is that the group that ate the fruits, both of them, had lost weight, but the group that ate the biscuit did not. Now, the reasons were the fruit is low energy dense. There's a lot of volume of water and weight relative to the amount of energy we get from it. And that drives down your appetite, so you eat less of the other food. But biscuits though, and even though they weren't big biscuits, you're not going to get a big biscuit to have the same calorie value as an apple or a pear. So smaller amount of food, but because it was highly energy dense, drove up your appetite, so that group did not lose weight over the same period of time, and in most cases gained slightly, or at least complained that they felt hungrier all the time. Their appetite had been spiked. Second study, they looked at some overweight people. They were on about 3,000 plus calories a day. They put them on, they monitored how they felt at the end of every meal when they were eating their normal, unrestricted food. They were specifically looking for the level of contentedness. So were they satisfied? Did they feel full? Were they happy? Then they put them on a diet. They dropped their diet by half. So they were living on 1,500 calories a day. That's pretty strict. But the important thing was that they changed and substituted their high dense foods, which are all your fast foods and that type of thing, into low energy dense foods, which are always going to be your vegetables in the main, your fruits, your whole grain cereals. Anything that's natural food will not be as dense as what processed food will be. And at the end of the time, they weren't worried about the weight because they knew they were going to get a big weight loss because the energy balance was affected so dramatically. They were concerned about how they felt. And when they gave them the same questionnaires during the dietary phase, they found there was no difference in the level of contentedness, the level of fullness, and the level of satisfaction that they experienced. That's really interesting. In the last study, this was a student study where they brought them in and they asked them to eat as much pasta as they would like with a pasta meal that was provided. So you can imagine these guys, students, they just smashed it. What they recorded was that they took in roughly, in unrestricted feeding, between 800 to 1,000 calories a day. They then brought them back, gave them free access to exactly the same pasta, but they asked them to eat a small salad first. And what they found is that the compensatory effect of eating the small salad, in terms of helping to pre-fill them, and also the fibre and the digestive effort, caused a compensatory drop in the amount of pasta that they ate, which culminated in about a saving of 100 calories worth of energy at the sitting. Then they brought them back in a third time, gave them free access with all the pasta that they could eat, but they upped the salad a little bit more, and they found this time the compensatory benefit was up around 150 calories or more in terms of less energy that they ate. So we can put in some strategies in place. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next.